Hi, I'm Susan and welcome to FlossTube episode number 38. On this channel, I like to look at cross-stitch, quilting, textiles, sewing notions, and methods from the past, and I like to share my projects and the progress I've been making on them. I have so many exciting things happening on this channel right now. It's almost hard to wait to film again. So I can't wait to share with you what's been going on. On today's episode, we're going to look at updates on the Mary 1840 St. Louis, Missouri Doll Quilt Experience project. We're going to take a look at my WIPS because I haven't given them much attention and I think it's time to pull them out and really focus and make some decisions. I have some new acquisitions. I have some sampler September options I'm considering. I have a quilt to talk about and have some of your comments to share and some first stitches stories, including mine, to share with you. So welcome. I'm so glad you're here. If you're new, I'm thrilled that you're a part of this channel and experience, and if you've come back, thank you so much. Let me fill you in with some updates on Mary, the Mary 1840 doll quilt. If you're new here and you're not familiar with it, this will give you a little bit of a framework of what's going on. And if you are participating at any level, whether it's watching, using your own materials, just listening, using the kit, you're welcome. Thank you to all of you who are participating. I cannot tell you how rich my life is based on all the comments I get from you. And that is from people from all aspects of participation in this project. It's just fantastic. And I wish there was a way for all of you to be able to experience what a joy that is. And I hope to work that out somehow. I want to offer a very, very special appreciation to those of you who are so patiently waiting on your kit. I am so grateful for your kindness and your patience. When you receive your kit, I think you'll understand each one is packed with so much love and care. And I told somebody the other day, I stand at the post office and I watch them scan every little package in because I just send them out with love to you, and I don't want anything to happen or go wrong. So anyway, thank you so much for being patient. I want to assure you there are new people joining all the time. There are new people starting all the time. There are people who are deliberately waiting to start until winter. So when you get your kit, if you've been waiting, you're not going to be starting alone. You're not going to be the only one just putting in your first stitches on this project. It is definitely something that is kind of ongoing. And I think that's fun because we can look at what people have done already, and then as new people join, we can see how they're progressing. It's super fun to see people who are choosing their own fabric. It's super fun to see how excited everyone is when they get their kit. And as I go through the tutorials and the stitched stories, you will understand more about why I have placed certain items in the kit. So anyway, again, thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your patience. I'm working really hard to get these out to you as quickly as I can without compromising the quality. I want these to just be as the best they can be when you receive them. When your order ships, you will receive a tracking number. I've had a lot of questions about that. So you're not just waiting there wondering, oh, is it just going to show up someday? You will receive a tracking number and you can follow it as it makes its way to your house. If you're having trouble placing an order, and some people have had some issues, please message me. You can message me through my email, which is smsquilter@comcast.net, and I will put that in the show notes. You can also message me through my website, which is susanstanleystitchintime.com, and I will do all I can to assist you in making sure that happens and that you are able to get a kit. Remember, the tutorials are going to be available indefinitely, and so there's no fear. If you have to take a break and not work on the next tutorial for a couple months, it's not going away. I have created, to make this easier for people and for you to go back to, I have created a playlist on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to show you a picture of what that looks like, because if you're watching this on a TV screen, you might not be aware of options that are available through YouTube. You would need to look at this through a laptop, an iPad, or a phone. But the playlist looks like this. Here's the picture. And on the playlist are all the videos containing information regarding this project. All the tutorials, all the stitched stories, all of the YouTube, all the floss tube videos that I've made that refer to Mary are all in this one place. So you don't have to scroll through all my videos and try to figure it out. It's all there for you. As I make new videos, I'll add them. And if you're watching and joining for the first time, it's all there. So the same thing. I have had many people make comments about the thimble, and I'm so proud of all of you who are trying a thimble and are just getting that tactile awareness of where your finger pushes the needle. It's just, part of the process. It's not always pleasant. I don't think a lot of people are loving the first experience, but I think over time you will become more accustomed to it. It's not as essential for these early stitching homework assignments, but when we get into the quilting and the basting and the thicker, the times when you have to stitch through thickness, you'll be so glad you have a thimble. So thank you for sharing those stories with me. I think they're charming. And please, make a record of the stories for yourself. One day you'll look back and smile. Remember to watch the tutorials, rewind if you need help, watch it as many times as you need to, stop it, slow it down, just keep working at it. This takes practice. It's a new skill. If it is a new skill, give yourself grace, be kind to yourself. Learning, at any age it still requires work. So if you're stitching along with me during the stitch stories and episodes, you will hear more about Mary's life and what St. Louis was like in 1840. I can't tell you how many people are involved in this project who either lived in St. Louis, currently live in St. Louis, have ancestors from St. Louis. I mean, it's just so exciting and so rich to hear all those stories as well. It's wonderful. So on the most recent Stitch Stories episode, which was episode 2, I have a really exciting discovery regarding a sampler that was stitched during the time our little girl Mary would have been living. And I tell you more about education and how children learned. I don't know. I was so excited I could have burst when this sampler popped up. So please hop over there if you are enjoying hearing more about the culture and the times. You'll know. We also on that episode, I talked about the British Foreign School Society, and I don't know, lo and behold, on Sunday, Brenda and the serial starter, Brenda and Laura, did their floss tube, and I was watching, and Brenda had purchased some new samplers, and one of them was stitched by a little girl in 1840 under the British Foreign School Service. I almost burst out of my chair. So she gave me permission to insert a photo of her new acquisition. And so this was something that was stitched during the time of our little girl Mary. So here's a picture of that right here. So thank you so much, Brenda, for allowing me to share that. Please go over to their floss tube if you aren't already watching it. I'm sure you are, but if you aren't, it's Brenda and the Cereal Starter. It's delightful. It kind of got me going actually in this whole floss tube adventure. Their channel did, so you definitely want to check them out. And it was so fun to see this because it made it just makes our little Mary even seem real, even though she's not, but it just gives us a little bit of connection to that time. So thank you again, Brenda. So I have some WIPS that are kind of like hot in my hand. I feel like they're WIPS I really want to keep working on right now. And then I have a few older WIPS, and I have a lot of like poor WIPS that have just been banished. I did not intentionally, you know, life just happens, but that I really would like to get back to them. But I want to show you first of all the WIPS that are just kind of burning in my brain, and I want to get to them, and I think about them all the time and pull them out and think how beautiful they are. I'm so committed to getting these kits out to you. I'm just letting myself stitch a little bit in the evenings, just, you know, because I need to unwind. And I'm also dreaming about Sampler September, so we have a lot of charts, we have a lot of WIPS to look at, and let me show you some of these you've seen before. Some of them you might not even remember that I ever had going on. So the first one, and you know, just it's amazing when you just spend a little time every day on something, you know, over time you really do make progress, and it's hard to feel that way because I pick these big projects. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I can't help it. They're just so beautiful. I want to make them. So Hannah Lancaster, I've wanted to stitch her forever, and I thought, you know, if you don't start, you can't finish. So Hannah Lancaster, I've been working on her. She's 1838, and so, you know, if you've been watching my channel, you know I've been really focusing on the 1840 time period. Mary, our little doll quilt, is from 1840. A lot of my stitch projects are from 1840. Not all of them, but so I'm stitching her on 38 count Fuller's Teasel with my own Averswag conversion, and I was able to get in, you know, I finished the border last time, and I was able to get in these birds here up at the top. So I have, you know, kind of like the framework is set now, and I can go in. I want to get down here and start the cartouche with the words, the verse, and it's not over one. So I can, you know, I don't love stitching letters. It's not my favorite, but I can do, you know, maybe a few letters, few words, and then a few border elements, and then go to a fun motif. Because really that's all I want to do is the fun motifs. But she's growing. I really enjoyed stitching these birds. I contemplated, I don't know if you can see, but I contemplated, well, you can't, the lighting's not good. On the bird, it's a dark brown and then kind of a silk that's the color of this linen, and I almost left it out, but when I looked at it up close, like it really needs it, fills it in, makes it a lot richer. So she's getting there. I think about this one all the time. I just can't wait to have it framed, but you know, I am enjoying the process. I'm so happy. I've been so deliberate and careful because I've started so many things and then restarted because I didn't like my fabric and floss choices, the combination, the colors. So I'm trying to be really careful and deliberate before I start. And I auditioned a lot of floss, and I auditioned linens, and I really carefully picked the colors, and so far so good. I'm happy. So there's Hannah Lancaster. I did in an earlier episode. I've given you my floss, my silk conversions, and I'm happy to share that if you're at all interested. She's lovely. She's a classic. A lot of people have stitched her, but she has to be in my house too. It was the dress, her dress. That was it. Just I've got thread's running away here. Okay. The next one is something I started when I came back. Well, I got it at the attic when I was there in April, I think, and I haven't made a ton of progress on it. Because I wanted to try this 5360 count linen. I don't know, I just wanted to try it. It looked intriguing. I wanted to see how it changed the shape of the images. It just looked fun. So I'm stitching, and I saw Carolyn of the attic, Stash Sister, stitching it, and it was so beautiful. It's Peace and Plenty by Mojo Stitches, and of course mine is going to be on this, you know, higher count, so it's going to be small, and I'm not stitching all the elements. I'm going to make it into a pincushion, and I'm using Swasserfine. I have number 2534. I'm sorry. Yes, and 2375, and they're just slightly different, and I just think they give some nice depth. So I have a tiny start. You know, it is a higher count. I have had vision issues. I'm able to do it. It's just it's slow. I can't stitch quickly. I'm stitching with a beading needle. Anyway, I love it. It's going to be fun. It's delicate, and it will mean a lot to me. Someone who's stitched on a high count with Swasserfine would understand. Likely nobody else who just sees it will even have a clue what that entails, especially in my current state. But it's just been super fun. I love it. The next one was, now I have ordered a few things from the Wishing Thorn Birgit, and if you haven't ordered anything from her, she packages things so beautifully, and there's always an extra gift in the box. You know, she just does such a nice job. But one of the gifts I received in my order was a freebie chart for a motif on Eliza Jane Smith. Now this is Eliza Jane Smith. This is what the full sampler looks like. I'm not going to show you the chart because the freebie, because it's the full chart. Anyway, so I was talking about urns because Mary's scrap bag has an urn, and I thought I need to do something with an urn. I don't know. It was just bugging me. So the freebie happened to be this urn on the sampler. So I pulled my own threads and I stitched. So far, I've got this much done. And I'm using a Veriswat silks. That's what I had. And colors. And I'm kind of dreaming about, I don't know, doing some more elements for a little sewing basket. Here's the threads. They're all in bags, so you can't really see them. I might have chosen a little bit more contrast for the rose. I still have to do, I'm contemplating, now you tell me what you think. I'm contemplating putting Mary 1840, because this sampler, another reason I was drawn to it is Eliza Jane Smith was stitched in 1840. So I don't know, should I put my name? Should I put the current year? Should I put Mary 1840 and my name tiny? And then should I make it into a pin disc? Should I make it into a needle book? Should I make it into a pin pillow? I don't know. Tell me what you think. It's been so fun to stitch. And you know, I changed the colors, but I'm really pleased with it. So, you know, just a few stitches every night, you really can make some progress. The next thing that I worked on, just a teeny tiny bit, was Jane Parson. Oop, sorry. Knocking things out of my own hands. Jane Parson Sampler 1841. And I got this because, of course, 1841, but I really wanted to try stitching in wool. I had done Mary Brutnell in Goblins, and she is my work basket finish. If you're not familiar with that, I'll share that in another episode. I've shared it before quite a bit, but and that was to replicate the depth, the quality of the thread, the weight of the thread, the thickness of the thread that the little girls used in 1840, and the count of the linen, to just kind of get an approximate experience. Well, another thing that was used a lot was wool. And so I thought, well, I've got to stitch wool, and I also have to break away from a marking sampler to more of a pictorial sampler, because, you know, as skills progressed, the little girls did, these stitchers did a little bit more advanced work. So I ordered Jane Parson, and I auditioned the wool on Riverstone 30 count and Swiss Cocoa. And I have stitched so much lately on, and well, let me show you. I don't know if you can see in the corner there. I have little tiny test patches. It's just a way to see, like, how are the colors going to work? Do I need to pull different colors? Do I need to switch things out? I just wanted to stitch on the Swiss Cocoa so badly. I have stitched on a lot of light colored linens lately, and although I just love this Riverstone, and I probably will use it for something else, I just was feeling super drawn to stitching a little bit on the dark. So here are the wool threads, and they came in, it's the Deux Aubusson, and this is what I got from the Wishing Thorn, and I was waiting on that, so I couldn't really start, but that's what they look like. They are so I stitch with the Goblins, and you have to give it a kind of a gentle tug to keep it in place, because it's silk and it slides. This has such a resistance against the linen, it just, you know, it's almost like, it's not a heavy resistance, it's just a very tactile experience stitching with this, and totally different than the Goblins, but I loved it. So this is where I am. I made a little bit of a start here on Jane Parsons in the corner. You know, it is going to be soft. There won't be a ton of contrast. Some of the colors, there's one color I might have to change out because it's just going to blend in so much. I love stitching with this wool. I can't tell you how much I love it. I love silk, but this was making me very happy. I just loved it. So that's how far I've gotten, you know, just every night. One night I'll work on this, a few threads, next night something else. So those are the WIPs that I have really had on the front of my mind this year, and that I really wish I could, you know, pour my heart into, and I will. I just, over time, but I'm just so committed to getting these kits out to you. So I want to show you some of my older WIPs that I'm thinking about for Sampler September, and I also have some haul. So I don't know what's going to get the attention. Maybe I'll do what Carol and Narissa are doing. Carol, Saltback Stitcher, and Narissa are starting, I think, every week they're starting a new sampler. Maybe, I think Narissa is doing it for 2 months, so it's a total of 8 sampler starts. I don't know. If I had it kitted up already, maybe I would consider that, but I try not to make myself go too crazy, and those would be rolling around in my head, and it would be hard to let go. So let me show you some of these older WIPs that I'm thinking about putting some stitches in for Sampler September, and then my haul. Okay, so these are WIPs that I haven't touched for quite some time, and they're so pretty, and I wish I could work on everything every day, but they'll get done eventually. It's encouraging to see progress when you just do a few threads every night. You do make progress over time. So first one up is the Forget Me Not chart that Katie Strachan adapted for the Simple Harmony box. And if you're not familiar with that, you should check out her channel. She has a series of tutorials. She takes you through the process of reinterpreting this, or moving pieces around, tells you exactly how to do it to fit a box, and then takes you through the whole process of how to adhere needlework onto a wood box, which terrifies me, but I'm doing it. So eventually I'll get it done. So that is the chart. I'm stitching mine on 37 count cloudburst, and I'm using these two colors. So let me hold this up here. So to complement the blue, I have silver. She did hers in red and gold. Mine is going to be in this blue and silver. And it is also using goblins. So it's, you know, it's just been a really fun experience. I had to restart, so that's why I only have one motif done. I had a little bit done, and I think I was off. And I know, you know, this is so size specific that I just thought, you know what, it's not worth it. I had plenty of linen. I'm going to redo it. So I have some accentuate in the silver, and then this goblins, and it is 1423. It's going to be so pretty, and I don't know how I'm going to handle this. As far as legacy wise, I do want this to be a legacy box. I don't know if it's going to be my line and my husband's line, and then, you know, showing initials and contents inside, photos from both lines. I have 2 children, 2 sons. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I'm not making 2 boxes, but I will need to do something for each of them. I want them to each have some kind of a heirloom piece. Anyway, it'll come to me. I know I'm just diving in, so it'll come. But I really enjoy stitching this. There's something peaceful about these Quaker inspired motifs, and I've learned to really love goblins, and there we go. One day that will be done as well. All right, another WIP that if you've watched me for quite some time, you will remember this WIP. This is Dutch Beauty by Perman of Copenhagen. It's 1790. Now the Modern Folk Embroidery Simple Harmony that I just showed you, Forget Me Not, which Katie adapted to her box project, it's Jacob's interpretation of a Quaker. It's not it's an original design, is what I should say. It's original. So this is taken from an antique, 1790. It's huge. I started it, and then I had an eye issue, and I restarted it, and so I haven't, you know, it will eventually be done. And now I am stitching it now on 45 count Cream and Sugar by Fiber on a Whim with all sorts of silks. I have had input from Janine of Acorns and Threads. I've had input from Jean. This is where I am so far. This one is actually very fun because I'm kind of deciding on colors as I go. So because I had an eye issue, I blew the chart up to like massive proportions. I could see to stitch through the magnification, but then going back and forth from that to the chart was really challenging. So this is something that I made a working copy definitely to work on. So I love doing the swan / goose / pelican, and I think after doing a lot of reading and auditioning and getting input from all of you, I'm pretty confident this is a swan. The chart refers to it as a swan as well. So anyway, and that motif has so much meaning. I mean, one thing about this sampler, each motif is loaded, packed with meaning. And you know how I love to explore the meaning behind things, because you see it in textiles, you see it in art, you see it in samplers, you see it, you know, And people in earlier times were very aware of the significance of a motif. Like they knew what it meant, and it was a message, and they knew the message. So anyway, I love it. I love petting it. So this does need, you know, maybe I'll, because I'm kind of on urns, maybe I'll do the urn over here, and I don't know. So I would like to get back to that. Oh, it's been fun. So that's a potential for Sampler September. And then this one I started in honor of my father, and he passed away. He had I think I started it before he passed away, actually, but you know, I just, somehow you know in your heart. And I couldn't pick it up for a while. It was kind of hard. But my father was a spunky, witty, energetic, super intelligent, fun person. And I just loved him so much. And when I saw this chart and I saw the gentleman in the doorway, who I believe is the Bonnie Prince Charlie, I said, well, my father has Scottish hair, is from Scottish heritage. This is my father. So I started stitching it, and then yeah, so it's a gorgeous chart. Now this is not the time period that I'm working on. It's 100 years earlier, 1740 to 1760. It's a Hands Across the Sea design. And anyway, there were other people stitching on it as well, and one of them was Sarah of Jane Says 8, and then Rebecca of Hedgerow Stitching was stitching it as well, and we started a hashtag, the RSM, the Old Scott Sal, and I just kind of dropped it because it was just too hard. But I'm ready to pick it up again, and I'm stitching this on 36 count platinum using a Verissois silks, and this is where I am so far. Here's the silks. So of course this flower motif, oh, I just love it. And this was charted unevenly. The flowers don't line up, and it doesn't bother me. I'm just gonna leave it the way it was charted. I'm loving the curly Q letters. I loved doing that. The border did not match up perfectly, and I think that was another reason why I just kind of put it aside and thought, oh, am I messing this up? But it's fine. I'm looking back at it a year later, because I don't think I've touched this for a year, and I like it, and it's okay, and I don't see the mistake. I can find it. I'm sure I can find it, but I've changed some of the colors. I just wanted a little more depth in these flowers. I just wanted them to pop. I absolutely love this green. Love this green, the way it pops off the linen. So this is another potential WIP that I need to get back to, and maybe we'll give some attention in September. So pretty. It has some satin stitches, and I'm actually excited to do those. I'm not afraid. I want to dive in. I love learning new things. I like trying new things. I might have to practice on I've done satin stitches in embroidery. I think if you just are careful with your needle and laying your threads properly, I don't know, I'll let you know how that goes. If that's successful or not, we'll see. And then the last one that I should give attention to in September is Anne Grimshaw. Now this one has a special place in my heart. And of course he were 1818. So I do love all across the century. I like 1700s textiles and stitching as well. But Anne Grimshaw, I just think it's gorgeous. It's so graphic. I don't love stitching alphabets, but I do absolutely love seeing the alphabet. So I'm going to endure that. The motifs are a lot like the Forget-Me-Not motifs used in Katie's Simple Harmony adaptation, and I love stitching those. They're just peaceful, and there's something about the balance of the Quaker motif that just, I don't know, calms me down. So the reason that one is special is when I first got back into cross stitching and took my first trip back to the attic, because I used to live in Arizona and I used to go to the attic quite a bit. I bought lights and I bought needle notions, and I thought, I'm just not going to get back into cross stitching because I just don't have time. Blah, 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 blah. Well, here I am. I went back on a trip, special trip, just to go there, and Jean actually she helped me pick out the linen and the floss. I made a special appointment. It was just a special time in the store along with Jean and Carolyn, and it's a sweet memory. So here is Anne Grimshaw. She is being stitched on Russian tea cake, and she's by the Scarlet House, and I am actually using NPI Noir. So I think a few more motifs in this. So maybe I need to give each of these WIPs that are calling out to me, besides the ones that are really screaming in my ear, some attention in Sampler September. I don't know. I also have some haul that I'd like to show you, and of course any of those items are up for grabs for Sampler September. So let me get my haul out. All right, so the first chart that I had to purchase, because I've been watching Carol work on this, Saltbox Stitcher, and I keep saying, no, I don't, it's beautiful, but I don't need it. It's beautiful, but I don't need it. No, I need it. It's Jane Atkinson by the Scarlet Letter, 1780. If you have not watched her channel and seen her progress on it, you really need to go look. It's stunning. This is an adaptation, and so I thought I give myself permission to adapt it even further. I think one of the things personally that I don't care for the Adam and Eve, and I'm not opposed to Adam and Eve on samplers. These just aren't my favorite looking people. That's not very nice to say, is it? So I might have to change that, but the border is just, and the tree, yeah, it's just amazing. So I got that recently. And then I was very inspired by Grace of the Paisley Stitcher. She did a chart parade of GGR, and there were several that I wanted, but I was pretty good, and I just limited myself to this one, a Fair Lady sampler. See if you can see that okay. I love the soft colors. Of course, I love the two people in the middle around the cartouche. I love the urn down in the lower corner. That urn is just popping up everywhere. Now this is, what time, let's see if there's a date. I don't know if there's a date on this one. Huh, that's too bad. There's no signature, there's nothing on it that, if anybody knows any more about this, let me know. I would love to know. Love to know a little bit more about it. Anyway, I just feel like the colors are beautiful, and it really, the elements are spread out, so you wouldn't have to stitch the whole thing as one. In fact, that urn might make a really good accessory to go along with my other urn. So maybe I need like a whole urn sewing set or something. I'm always coming up with ideas. I can't do them all. So then after learning about Mary, 1840, and the schooling that was going on in 1840, and the sampler that was stitched, and the learning that was inspired by the British Foreign School Society, I thought, well, I need to look at some schoolgirl samplings from different schools that are available. And I remembered that the Scarlet House has this. Now these are not from the British Foreign School Society or Service, but they are schoolgirl they're taken, I don't know, I'll have to find out if these are taken from full charts or if this is what the girl stitched, just a small element. So that got my wheels turning a little bit. And then the Wishing Thorn has so many beautiful charts, and I have several, but of course I had to get this, and I think Brenda just finished one of these. This is the Tyndale Sister Samplers, 1840. Of course, yes, thank you, I have to have this. I don't know, what do you do with two almost identical samplers? Do you make them book covers? I don't know. Just stitch them and enjoy them, but they're just charming. They're 1840. I think they would be lovely done in wool. They'd be lovely. You have options for a lot of different floss. So thank you, Wishing Thorn, for your beautiful charts. And then I had to pull this one out. This one really, it's very, it's almost primitive and folk art-like, but those huge roses and those tomato bushes just, I don't know why, I guess because I like red. Tell me what you think. I've actually considered stitching this on a lower count using wool. I saw this at Vicky's house when I was there earlier this year, and the original is huge, and it's so stunning, and it made me really think about how not everything, but some things really need to be stitched on the lower count. Because the design elements are lost. I feel on some things when they're on too high of a count. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what I imagined in my head. So this one, I think, I loved seeing it in its full size on the lower count at her house, the original. It was striking. I'm sure it would be striking on a high count too. I don't know, it just took my breath away, and I thought it was amazing. So that's a potential. And then I also got this in April, and I love it. And I think Katie showed it. I think she's going to start it. Oh, 1835, Oh Sweet Humility by Cross Stitch Antiques. This just has everything I would love. I love the animals. I love the house. I love the flowers. I love the border. I love everything. The colors. It's so lovely. Do I dare start another huge sampler? I don't know. I think we'll see. September is also my birthday month, so I have to, there's a lot going on in September that justifies starting new things. And then, sorry, Mom, my mom doesn't like it when I have too many projects going. Elizabeth Furnace, 1836. I see people working on it. It's stunning as well. So I have all these massive year-long options. So tell me what you think. I definitely think these things that I've already started need more attention, and that's probably what I'll do. But there might be one of those that I need to start just because it's Sampler September and it is my birthday month. Hopefully I'll have my kit homework done and all the materials will be to me, so I can actually give more attention to my WIPS. And now I want to talk to you a little bit about my quilt. Okay, so the quilt behind me is the quilt that I made to commemorate my wedding. And I didn't make it for getting married, because I made it, actually, I was married in 86 and I made this in 93. So that was a time in my life where I'd been quilting for a while, and I started to really think about the meaning behind the quilts that I was making and why I was making them. And I started making quilts as a memory and kind of a journal of my life and significant events in my life. And so, later on when I talk more about Mary, I'll talk to you about dowry quilts. So really wasn't a dowry quilt because I had already been married, but you know, we're still married, so the same guy, and so I guess it worked. I guess it was a good thing. But this quilt is something that's been adapted from several books. So excuse me while I grab the books. So the center star, and let me put in a picture here of the full quilt because I can't get it in the photo in here right now. So here's the whole quilt. All right, so the center star came out of a book called Quilts, Quilts, Quilts by Diana McClune and Laura Nouns, and it's the complete guide to quilting, and it was published in 1934? Wow, okay. Yeah, so it's old. The applique pieces around were adapted and drawn a lot from this book by Gina Kimball. This is a great book, if you can find it. Red and Green, an Applique Tradition by Gina Kimball. Now let's see, when was this published? 1951. Oh, no, I'm sorry, 1990. Sorry, I was looking at something wrong on this one. This was published in 1988. Okay, this one's 1988. That makes more sense. Okay, so these are, you know, from early in my quilting life. And so that's those two elements. And there was a quilt shop where I lived in Tucson. I eventually ended up working there, but they were running a block of the month, and block of the months were done differently at that time. You were given patterns, and you would go in and talk about how to construct the quilt, and then it was up to you to pull the fabrics and put it together. You weren't given a packet. You had to be creative, and I'm so appreciate that I had that experience where I had to work with the fabrics and figure it out. And not everything worked every time, but you know, that's how you learn. So this fabric was a new line that had come out by Barbara Brackman, where she interpreted some of William Morris's work, and this was back, you know, in '93. So she's still doing that today, and she's doing different scale and different colorations, but this was the first time William Morris fabric came on the scene in good quality quilting fabric. And so I thought, okay, yeah, I'll try it. Now, I wish I had done a little bolder colors, like especially in here, this tealy color, but that's how I learned. So the star is soft, it doesn't pop like a lot of stars, but and this star is just dates way back. It's a motif, it's actually been called the mathematical star, the Star of Bethlehem, or the Lone Star. And it dates back to the late 1700s, early 1800s, and it was really popular in Baltimore in the 1840s. But stars are a motif that has packed full of meaning, and they're also in samplers. And in fact, I think one of the summer school projects had something along the lines of this star. So the outer stars on the outer edges here are called a Lemoyne star, but these stars were constructed using this book, Stars, 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 and it was kind of a non-Y seam or cheater way of creating a Lemoyne star. So I had to try that, and you know, it looks pretty good. There are some close-ups that I'll put on my website where you can see there are seams that aren't normally there, but it's a mock Lemoyne star. And at some point we'll talk more about Y seams. But anyway, so on this quilt I was playing with fabrics across the 1800s. I wasn't really honing in on a time period within the 1800s. I was perfecting my needle turn skills on the applique. You know, it was just a time when I was just really enjoying doing a lot of quilting. And I keep this on the foot of my bed. It kind of drapes over the bottom. And when I don't need a quilt, I hang it up and it's across the rim and I can enjoy it. So anyway, that's that quilt. I want to share with you some comments. I can't share all of them that I get because there are just too many, but at one time. But so please send me your comments because I'm keeping them separately, and each time I do a floss tube, I'd like to share a few. This time I'm going to share a comment from Carol, Saltbox Stitcher, and then my first stitches story, or the influencer of my first stitching. And so Carol gave me permission to tell you a little bit about her first stitches experience, mostly that centered around a thimble. I'm not going to read all of it. It was just so fun to hear from her. And she said, so as far regarding thimbles, Carol said she started to quilt way back, and she started quilting with the Georgia bone steel method. If you are a quilter and you've quilted for quite some time, you will be familiar with that. It's a good way to quilt for a beginner. You actually piece the block, finish the edges, and then piece the next block, finish the edges, and then you stitch the edges together to create your quilt. It's just a different method. It's actually a very old method, which I'll talk to you about sometime. So she said, anyway, I'm a weirdo in that I use a separate thimble, usually a leather one for piecing and a traditional silver one for hand quilting. My hand motion for the hand quilting is different than hand piecing, and I can only hand quilt toward myself. I would have been useless at a quilting bee, as I can't quilt away from myself, LOL. No, I think we would have loved to have you there, Carol. She said, so consequently, I have lots of various thimbles. Yes, welcome to my world. Yes, I'm hoping to help you all avoid that, but it kind of happens. She said, my grandmother was the quilter and her thimble was huge, even though she was a small woman. Working hands, I guess. And then she goes on later to say that her grandmother was a farm wife, and so Carol lived in Kansas City and then learned a lot of quilting from Brannock and Pettick in a primitive look early on. She feels like she is really fortunate to have learned in that era. But she was raised in St. Louis, and so she can so relate to little Mary. She was in her 20s when her grandmother died, and her grandmother personally gave her her thimble. And so, you know, these little needlework tools, these little things that we spend so much time with are so sentimental. They're such a part of us. It's very, very expensive. She said it was very, very special. She said it was not very expensive, but it had such precious memories. And so thank you so much, Carol, for sharing your story, and all of you who have shared your story. And I hope to add to that next time. The reason I'm cutting it short at one is because I want to share my stitched story, my first stitches story, and the person who influenced me. And there were a few people, but of course the most significant influence in my life and my stitching life was my mother. I'm going to put a picture in of my mother, and it's a picture from my most recent visit to see her, and she was knitting. So that's my mom, and I cannot remember a time in my life when my mom wasn't doing some kind of needlework project with her hand, using her hands. My very first memory, and I think I was like, I don't even think I was barely 4, was sitting at the dining room table. She was beading a bodice for a dress she was making to wear to a New Year's Eve party. And this would have been back in the 60s. So it was fitted, it had a little flounce skirt, it was green, a limey green, and she left the scraps out on the table. She gave me a big, huge darning needle that I poked myself with a million times. You know, the first time it shocked me, but I got over it. And I remember pulling the thread, stitching the thread through the fabric, and how that, I do remember how that felt, and I remember gathering it. And I really liked that. So I was doing lots of stitching and gathering. And I was she was having me put a knot in the end. I think she probably tied the knot. And I constructed this little silky purse that wasn't really a purse at all. It was more like a ball with a piece of rickrack as the handle that was very loosely stitched on. And I stuffed it with cotton balls to make it look like a purse. And I've tried to find that. I know I have it somewhere. When I find it, I'll show it to you. But that's my earliest memory of stitching with my mom. But my mom did crewel work. She knit. She sewed clothing. I learned to sew clothing. There was always something textile going on in my house growing up. And yeah, I just thank her for that. I'm hoping that we can all share our first stitched story, or who our influencer was. My first stitches story would be a lovely hashtag if you're brave enough to get out there and just show a picture of the person who influenced you and who gave you the gift of the love for stitching in any form, or textiles, whatever it was. My grandmother had left a huge legacy of needlework too, but yeah, so thanks, Mom. And I know she's watching. I know she's really anxious for the next tutorial, which is supposed to come out next week, which will be the end of August 2023. If you're watching this at a different time, your next tutorial will be up. But that's it for today. Next time I want to show you more. I'll give you more updates on the Mary 1840 project. I will show you what I've done on my WIPS that I'm just holding close to my heart, and then the ones that have been languishing for quite some time. And then I'll let you know if I decide to start something for Sampler September, what it is and how I'm progressing along with it. Anything else that comes up, I'll for sure let you know, and we'll talk more about work basket items and all the rest. And until then, I'll see you and make time for stitching. Bye-bye, friends.